Hi there, this is Nicole from Right at Home, and today I'll be sharing 2 more ideas using our Be Mine bundle, which is currently 30% off in our shop. It includes the folded Sweetheart die set and the coordinating Be Mine stamp set, which are shown here. This bundle will be available until this Friday only, so if you've been thinking of picking it up, now's the time to do so. These items pair perfectly together and were designed to help you easily create the sweetest Valentines for your loved ones, like the ones that are shown here. I won't be showing you how to actually put together the folded Valentine today, but instead I'll be showing you how to stretch these items to create even more fun Valentine's Day projects, but I'll be sure to include a link to my last video below where I show you how to use the main part of the die set. So for today's card, I'm just using the inner heart layer piece to create a stencil that I'll be using for ink blending. I cut the heart from a piece of thick plastic material, but you can use paper or even acetate sheets, anything that is thin enough for you to die cut through. For my background, I have a piece of white cardstock here that is sized for a mini slimline card front, which is 7 by 4, and I'm lightly adhering it to my work surface. Then I'm laying down my stencil and holding it in place using some of our ink blending washi tape. And for my first heart, I'll be using the Be Mine ink color from Catherine Pooler and dabbing off any of the excess ink onto my work surface before starting my blending. These inks are very juicy, so I'm just making sure to tap off so that I don't create any harsh lines. And I'll just continue adding that color until I achieve the desired darkness. And once you're finished, you can just peel off that stencil and see that fun heart shape that is left behind. Now I'm just placing my stencil back down onto my background, but I'm making sure to move it towards the top of the panel and also turning it slightly so that I create some variation in the background. I also made sure to overlap it a little with the first heart so that when we go in with our second color, we get a fun layered effect. And for this heart, I'm using Rockin' Red, also from Catherine Pooler. And for my third color, I decided to bring in a light purple shade, so I'm using Sweet 16 by Catherine Pooler. So you'll just want to continue adding hearts until the entire panel is covered, and when you're finished, you'll be left with this fun, festive background. To turn these into conversation hearts, I'm going in with the XOXO stamp from the Be Mine stamp set and adding those on top of the hearts in the same ink colors that I used to blend them onto the panel, and this just creates a tone-on-tone effect. I slightly trimmed down this panel about a 1/4 inch off of each side so that I could add it to a mini slimline card base that measures 7 by 4 once it's folded. I popped this panel onto the front of the card base, but instead of using foam tape, I used 2 stacks of scrap cardstock that I just glued together. I glued 3 strips of cardstock together for each stack and then added those to the back of my panel. I had a ton of odd-shaped strips laying around, so I just decided to use this trick instead of wasting a ton of foam tape. For the sentiment, I'm using the Happy Valentine's Day sentiment from the stamp set and just white heat embossing it onto some black cardstock. Once I heat it, I'll trim it down into a thin strip. I'm just adhering our sentiment to the front using some foam tape and a T-square ruler so that I know it's perfectly straight. And to finish off, I decided to add just a few clear sequins using some liquid glue. I love the way this card turned out and how we were able to use one of the dies from the die set to create a stencil, which just allows us to create an entirely different look than what was originally intended with the die set. I actually have a second card to share with you, and for this one I'll be making another slimline card, but I'll be using the Love You word die from the set instead. I die cut it about 10 times from white cardstock, and I'll be adhering it to the front of this white panel to create a tone-on-tone background. For the first die cut that you're going to adhere, you'll want to make sure that it's placed in a focal point on the panel. So just try to make sure that it's pretty centered because that's going to be the main love you sentiment for our card. Then once you have that one adhered, you can go in with your other die cuts around it. I'm just using a glue pen to adhere these and trimming off anything that hangs off to use on other open spots on the background. This process can get a little bit sticky because of all the liquid glue, but once everything is dry, I just recommend going in with a glue eraser and lightly swiping it over the whole panel to remove any excess glue. And here's a look at what the panel looks like when it's all done. It's a fun and different look and adds a subtle message to the background for the recipient. I have another one of the words he cut here from silver glitter cardstock, and I'll be adding it on top of the one that we adhered as the focal point in the center of the panel. I did adhere it slightly offset just to create even more interest. Then I have another one of the thin phrases from the stamp set that I white heat embossed on a black strip of cardstock, and I'm just popping that up below the silvered love you. And to finish off the card and to add a bit more color, I'm using some clay hearts and scattering those around the card in some of the open spaces. I adhered the entire panel to a pink card base, and this card was finished. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and again, this bundle will only be available until this Friday, February 11th, so make sure to take advantage of the discounted price while you can. You can find a link to my shop in the description below, as well as a link to my previous video where I showed you how to put together the actual folded Valentine piece. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!